Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Pashat gave Yidden a much better opportunity to live Begashmius, but also Baruchnius. They were also able to be more free in their Yiddishkeit and the way they would do things, not being under so much pressure from all the Gashmistic challenges that they had. And most Yidden in that time actually supported Napoleon. The Alter Rebbe was very, very unique in his approach in calling Napoleon the epitome of Tumah. And, we hear about these things in stories about the old, every Yontif, you always have the Rasha who was trying to hurt the Yidden. And, you wonder, what did Achashverosh, what did Haman really know about? And you think to yourself, the Alter Rebbe sees Napoleon as Tumah, but was that just a spiritual thing, or was this something that was really tangible? And when you read the story of how when Napoleon actually came to where the Alter Rebbe was living, the first place that Napoleon went to was the Alter Rebbe's house. And he made a big announcement that anyone who can give them anything from the Alter Rebbe would be very rich. And anyone that has something from the Alter Rebbe and they withhold it, they'll be punished severely. And what happened just before Napoleon arrived, the Alter Rebbe they had left already their town, and the wagons had all traveled away. And the Alter Rebbe sent 2 horses back to go back to the house and to double check to make sure there was nothing else there. And they found a sieve and a slipper, a few things that were left there. They took those and then they set the house, according to the Alter Rebbe's instructions, on fire. So when Napoleon arrived, they couldn't even get a piece of wood. Everything was burnt to ashes. But it was clear it wasn't just something the Alter Rebbe knew about in his head. This is Tumah. Napoleon knew that the Alter Rebbe was fighting him. And they say he had Kishuf powers, magic powers, and he wanted it, if he felt like he was able to get something that belonged to the Alter Rebbe, he would be able to overpower the Alter Rebbe. So this was clearly a big war, not just in the spiritual realms. Like you hear when the Alter Rebbe goes to prison, yeah, that's true, the whole story with that he was sending money to Eretz Yisrael, which is under the Turkish rule, and they thought it was a treason. But then you hear the real story was there was a Gezerah B'Chassidus. So here you can think, yeah, there's a spiritual battle, but in the physical world, did Napoleon know of the Alter Rebbe? The answer is yeah. And did he try to be able to overpower him? The answer was yes. And the Alter Rebbe really, really fought. In fact, we know that the Alter Rebbe sent his own chassid, Rabbi Moshe Meisels, to be a spy for the Russian army against Napoleon. Being that he was fluent in several languages, and that the Yidden in the town where he came from were supporters of Napoleon, so it looked like he's part of the Yidden that are supporting Napoleon. One time, Napoleon got nervous that he was a spy, and he ran over to him and he put his hand on his heart and said, "You're a spy," thinking that if he was a spy, his heart would start to race. But he had the power of that Chassidus gives us, of Me'ach Shalat al Alev, that the brain controls the heart, and he was able to control his heart. But the Alter Rebbe, they say, even sent his own son, Rabbi Moshe, also to help. So the Alter Rebbe really put himself out, to the point that right before he passed away, the Alter Rebbe said that says that tzaddikim sometimes have to give up their own life to fight the tumah in their generation. So this wasn't just something that Chassidim, associated, and it looked like from the traveling in the cold weather, that's what brought about the Alter Rebbe's Istalkus. It's even something that the Alter Rebbe himself said. So you clearly see how the Alter Rebbe really gave up his life to be able to win over Napoleon. And the craziest part of the story is that as the Alter Rebbe passed away, the last soldiers retreated from Russia. So if this is the story of the Alter Rebbe's last parts of his life, that he took on this war to win Napoleon, it would be appropriate to speak about what was so bad about Napoleon. What did Napoleon do already that wanted to do so much that, he wanted to take away that there shouldn't be a servants being forced by their masters? What was so terrible about that? The Yidden would have a much better quality of life under Napoleon. So the Alter Rebbe explains that when there was the idea of a servant and a master in this physical world, that gave us the concept of what it means to be a servant to the Eibishter. When you abolish the idea of servants and masters in the physical world, or you don't have a king in this physical world, you don't even have a mashal of how a Yid's supposed to be and see the Eibishter. It's actually fascinating. When the Rebbe spoke to the children about the Eibishter being in charge, how did the Rebbe explain it to the children? So he says to the child, in your house, who's in charge? Your mommy and your tati. But in your class, who's in charge of your whole class? The teacher. And who's in charge of the whole school? The principal. And who's in charge of the whole city? The mayor. And who's in charge of the whole country? The president. And the Eibush is in charge of the whole world. He created the pyramid where there's some idea of being in charge that exists, and then you build and build and build, and then you have a better idea, at least now when you come to the Eibishter, what it means that he's in charge. So the Alter Rebbe saw that Napoleon was going to take away this idea of a servant and a master. And although it will be better for the Yidden Begashmias, the Alter Rebbe felt like this will take away from the Yidden Baruchnias. They would be able to start integrating, live where the Goyim lived. They wouldn't be separated to live on their own. They'll be able to integrate and live amongst the Goyim. But furthermore, not only that, they'll be able to work with the Goyim. The Alter Rebbe saw this as a challenge, that this would draw down their connection to the Eibishter. And for that, he gave away his life. Now my question to all of you. Pretty obvious question. Who won the battle? It's true, we know in the times of the Alter Rebbe, the Russians won. Napoleon's army retreated. And he wasn't able to do what he wanted to do in Russia. But let's look around the world today. Today, do we have a servant and a master? Today, do we have an example of a king? Today, have we started to mingle and live amongst all the Goyim? Who won? You're all very quiet. Who won the war? Huh?
I think you're asking not who won, but who is winning. Like it's a constant question. Both. Could it be both?
It could be both. I'm listening.
Okay. So what the Alter Rebbe did is that he caused it to be that the war of having a concept of having people in charge like wins, right? So that concept it still exists. At the same time, the Jewish people, it seems, have been able to intermingle with others. So that concept also won. But at the same time, since those two things can coexist, when we go and intermingle with when we are in the same areas as Goyim, we're not really in the same areas as Goyim because now we also have the ability to reveal that Hashem's really in charge.
So why couldn't that happen? Then why did the Alter Rebbe have to give up his life? If what you're saying is true, which is fascinating, if you think about it. The Alter Rebbe gave up his life because if we would be in that kind of state, he's saying that there'll be no more Yiddishkeit. There'll be no more Yiddishkeit. And you're saying that we have Yiddishkeit. So why did he give up his life then? You hear what I'm asking you? Your answer is brilliant. Your answer is better than anyone could imagine. What you're saying is that really and truthfully, we got to a whole different state. We got to a place where there isn't the quote unquote masters and servants. There isn't the king, but we're still looking to the Eibishter. And we're living amongst the Goyim. So if that's the case, then why couldn't the Alter Rebbe, why did he give his life? We're doing it.
Because we were not ready for that revelation then. We're only ready now after seven generations. Now, after all the work has been done by our Rabbi and all the generations, we're ready to have that revelation where we don't need servant-master relationship in the world, and like a greater life has been revealed. That's why.
So obviously, in the times of the Alter Rebbe, what's happening today wasn't possible. I'm going through this experience, so we realize there's been an absolute huge transformation in the world, and the Alter Rebbe had to give up his life back then, because otherwise there would have been total assimilation. There would have been total assimilation.
So it's the fact that he gave up his life that now we're in a state where we can live amongst the Goyim. And
so then he had to give up his life because the Yidden weren't ready for it. And therefore he had to fight Klippa, he had to fight Napoleon, so that there shouldn't be assimilation. But then through the spreading of Chassidus, like you said so well, 7 generations of all the Rabbeim, we've actually transformed the world to a place where we could live amongst the Goyim and without the things, the pressures that they were then on us and separating us from the Goyim, and without the financial pressures and all the costs that you were talking about. Because then without that costs, we wouldn't have stayed true to who we were. We would never be there would be no religious Jews today. There would be no, without, that's what the Alter Rebbe was saying. So he had to go Mesiras Nefesh, not because, oh look, it happened anyway. No, it wouldn't have happened what's happening now. The world, as you said, wasn't ready for it then. And what does that show us? What a transformation Chassidus had on the world. That the world is transformed to the place that you could be in this world. And you're living amongst the Goyim, but you're not impacted by them. You could be above them.
Are we though?
Sorry?
Are we though? Are we living in that place?
Oh. You always have the reality check. There's always people that are down to earth with the program, as they say. That's the segue. You have the story, you have the question about what was really happening, and then the segue into the real Farbrengen. And thank you for that. Now we have to ask, we call the Cheshbon HaNefesh.
I think reality is the way the Rabbi describes it. And then are we living the Rabbi's reality?
For sure. Let's put it this way. There are certain people in Eretz Yisrael who used to, literally the people that were in the actual army, in the soldiers who were on duty, they were the ones that you saw, they walked around with their guns. But your typical Israeli soldier, even if they had a gun, it was in their house, and they wouldn't always carry it with them. Guns are very powerful. But they're also, because they're so powerful, they're also dangerous. And you have to be very careful who you give them to. Because you need to be somebody that you could really trust, that will use it right. I hope it's okay. We get a little bit real over here. We are very blessed that the Eibishter trusted us in our generation, after all of the Gili of Teves and Chassidus, to be able to be in the world in the state that we're in. Together with the most incredible technology that is able to spread Chassidus in a way that we never have been able before. But there's many groups amongst the Yidden till today who try. They try to separate the Yidden, their groups, from the rest of the world. Let's call it the Alter Rebbe Shitta, the Alter Rebbe's way of doing things. Why? They're afraid. They're afraid today that if their child does have a smartphone, if their child does go out into the world, if they're exposed to live amongst Goyim, they're going to lose their kids. Till today, there are groups of Yidden that very much try as much as they can to separate them. What did the Rebbe do? The Rebbe took us and put us all over the world, one shliach in a whole country who's from no one else. The Rebbe showed us that the world is ready for this. What way is right? Is the right thing to do what the Rebbe says and we go out on shlichus and go out and live in the world? Or to be like separated? Don't have a smartphone. What's the answer?
It has to be balanced.
For the right thing. Make use of it.
It's like the gun. Very powerful tool. It could be used, Echman al-Islan, for the worst things. The truth is that if you don't hear about the story of the Alter Rebbe, you don't actually even feel like the moments that we're living now are anything significant. Don't even realize the victory of Chassidus, that we have that ability to be able to be above and in control of our heart, our mind controlling our heart, like the story of Mesha. We have the ability not to press the button that we shouldn't press. We have the ability not to integrate into the Goyim's life, Goyish life, but to live there and be above it. But we have to remember that we have the ability. And because we have the ability, because of what the Rabbi went on Mesiras Nefesh for, we have that power. But that's a power. That doesn't mean that we do it. That doesn't mean that we live up to it. It means we have the ability to. In the times of the Alter Rebbe, they didn't have the ability to. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe had to give up his life. And therefore, they weren't challenged with the smartphone. Because if they were, they wouldn't have been able to withstand. Even the greatest Chassidim, and Alter Rebbe had the most incredible Chassidim, they wouldn't have been able to withstand this challenge. Moshe Rabbeinu sees the last generation of Galus before Mashiach comes, and he says, I'm humbled by them. Why? Who are we? We're simple people. Moshe Rabbeinu is humbled by us. Yeah. Because actually we're living through a very, very special time. That on one hand, we're being so empowered with the most incredible technology that can literally spread Chassidus and reach the furthest corners of the world. And even the ways we can do it and the people that we can reach, the advancements every day are incredible. Mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Yet, those same technologies have buttons. Yeah, you wouldn't believe this. But when we were in yeshiva, I didn't even know that. I only found out later. There were two Bachrim. They wanted to watch a movie. There's no such thing as smartphones in those days. But there was a store like Blockbuster. I remember what it was called, but near the yeshiva. And they had enough guts to walk onto the street, make sure no one was looking, and walked into the store. Then they paid the guy in the store to let them go to the back of the store and sit there and watch a movie. Had to go on Mesiras Nefesh. It wasn't so easy. Anyone could have seen them walking into the store. And then they were sitting for hours in the back of the store. And if anyone, so easy to get caught. And if they're lucky, they got to see a movie here or there. It wasn't easy to sit.
I have a question. I think about the way that the world is now a lot, and like even the fact that we're able to be like Farbrengen right now without candles is like it puts us like out of whack. Like it makes us that like we're out at night and then we stay up late because we have lights and like we don't sleep properly, and that's like the beginning of it. Like we have phones, and I just think about how like out of order we are. But like it's supposed to be like this. Like we're supposed to be out of order right now.
Sorry, in what sense are we out of order?
Like we're not in sync with the sun. We're not in sync with the seasons. We're not in sync with ourselves. We're in sync.
Saying
with
that we have electric.
Yeah, we're in sync with 9 to 5. We're in sync with our WhatsApp notifications. We're in sync with social media. And we're not in sync with anything that like any of the 10 memoirs in What?
The reality is, what you're asking is that this is you're pinpointing how the world that we live in today could be so easy. I would call like a wire pull. You know what a wire pull is? When you like get sucked in when the water is like, and then you get sucked in. Whirlpool. And you get like sucked in. The world that we live in today, it's fascinating what a phone could do. Now, not about anything else. Just focus on a phone. What you have access to. You know, the Rebbe spoke about not bringing a galach, the galach into your house. In those days, what did it mean? Bringing in the television, right? But today, we could have the galach in our pocket with us wherever we go. And we can justify it. Why can we justify it? Because it's for afatzis and mayon. I need it for afatzis and mayon.
I need it for work. All my work apps are on there.
My mental health.
So what's the solution? Is the solution no smartphones? Is the solution not going out into the world? Or does it mean that the Rabbeim, what the 7 generations went on Mesiras Nefesh to say we're going to change the world, transform the world, and transform you so much that you actually have the ability to use these tools properly. Whether we do or don't, or how much we do or how much we don't, everybody is very, very familiar with their own life that we don't have to go into.
But should we fight the, like, it's like so much about the way that the world looks right now is just so unhealthy, and should we fight it in the sense of like, should we try to change those things, or should we just say this is a challenge and we just have to, like, in our own lives, you know, like
How? Let's say the answer was to fight it. How do you fight it in the whole world? How do you do that?
yeah,
Sorry?
like, can I just go live in a?
Oh, that was what the Alter Rebbe did, right? With Napoleon, even though we're getting it. We're getting the Farbrengen is coming to life, become Amish, right? That's Mamish, what the Alter Rebbe was fighting for. So maybe it's a good thing.
Is it?
Or were there 7 generations of Rabbeim that went to Mesiras Nefesh to say, you can do this. You can do this. That doesn't mean you don't need to put a filter on your phone. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't have restrictions. That doesn't mean that you should. It means that you have the koyach to handle this. You can do this.
And our grandfathers couldn't.
No,
Wow.
they couldn't.
Wow.
I think that's a wow. I think that's a big wow. And to me, that's why Chof Teves is the wow yontif, because it really, really, really shows us that there was a time that the Alter Rebbe had to go Mesiras Nefesh because our grandfathers could not do this, even though they were huge chassidim. But we can. Does that mean that we do it? Everybody will answer that question themselves. But we can. And we're being trusted. We're being trusted with the greatest ammunition. Because this ammunition is what's needed to actually bring Galus to an end. So you're being trusted, like in Eretz Israel today. Everybody is a gun carrier. Everybody's being trusted to walk around with a gun. Why? Because that's what's needed now. We're being trusted with this ammunition, not because it's because this is what's needed to bring the Geula, and we're being entrusted that we'll use it right.
Is it really trust, or is it like, okay, we have no choice, we're gonna give it to you whether we trust you or not? Like, this is the bottom line, you need to have a gun. If we don't have as much trust in you as, let's say, we did people in the previous generation, but like, necessity is necessity, and we're gonna give it to you.
You know, it's so beautiful when you have Farbrengen that it's not just talking, where you ask questions like that, because it really brings out the point so much more. Your question is such a deep question. Maybe we're not really Caleb. Maybe we shouldn't really be trusted, I should say. Maybe we're not really capable. But let's use the example of Eretz Israel. Maybe the people in Eretz Israel today are not more trusted than they were 10 years ago or 3 years ago. But we got to a place where any second, at any point in time, there could be something happening. So we have no choice. We have to trust you. But when we say I have no choice, I have to trust you with the gun. I have no choice. But do I trust you? Yes or no? Now, do I trust you?
No.
Enough to let you carry the gun? And if you and I'm going to hold you responsible for it, right? I'm trusting you, whether I have to or not, whether the circumstances created the need or not. But am I trusting you? Yes. Am I going to hold you responsible if you use it not properly? Yes. So at the end of the day, am I trusting you? Maybe because of the circumstances, but am I trusting you? Yeah. And I'm going to hold you responsible because I'm trusting you. The reality is that what you said is so deep. We're in the last moments of Galus. We have to actually bring this Galus to an end completely. Not all the signs that we're seeing in the world. We actually have to bring Galus to an end in a very practical, real world that we have. The Geula, Amitis, Vashlema, the Beis Hamikdash, Tchias Hamesim, everything, Gileal, Lakos, the full. Not just the evolution, how everything's evolving the way it is now. We want the Big Bang, right? We want to be able to have the complete Geula. We have no choice. This is the technology that we need to make it happen. So we have no choice. But we could have said we had no choice in the times of the Alter Rebbe. Then the Alter Rebbe fought off the Tumah and says, no, but because my Chassidim, the Yidden are not Kalim for this, I'm going to fight it. And the Rebbe could have fought it off as well. But the Rabbeim transformed us and the world that we are now Kalim for this. And we need this now. But now comes the question, what's with Al Cheshbon Nefesh? You see, if we never understood what happened in the times of the Alter Rebbe, if we never realize in the times of the Alter Rebbe, this was not possible, I don't even think there's anything going on with me. Like, what's the big deal? But once you realize the Alter Rebbe gave up his life, so this shouldn't happen to us, so we shouldn't assimilate. Now, what does assimilation mean to us? The Chas v'Shalom marry a guy? Baruch Hashem, we've made that decision that we're not going to do that. But what does assimilate mean now to us? It means that button. It means that we actually have that ability to take our heart and take our mind, and on one hand, as the Alter Rebbe says, those that hold on to my klamka, those that hold on to me, I will do them a favor in this world and the world to come. We could learn Chassidus, we could learn Tanya, we could learn Chassidus, we could immerse our hearts and our souls in Chassidus, and our brains in Chassidus, or we could immerse it in other things. We could be using the technology to bring Chassidus to the world and further refine the world, or we could use the technology to slide wherever we go. So tonight is an unbelievable night. It's a night that we look back at what the Alter Rebbe did for Klal Yisrael. He gave up his life, begashmis, physically, so that Napoleon doesn't win, so that the Jews don't assimilate, so Jews are left fighting to be able to live, be able to have a house over a roof over their head, so they're able to live separate from the Goyim. So the Yiddishkeit will stay alive because he understands they can't handle this. They're not kalim for this nisayon. They're not able to handle this level of a test. But we are. Not because we're greater. If you know the Chassidim of the Alter Rebbe, what Pashitz, Shmuel Munkus was a tzaddik, not a Beinani. Not a tzaddik Veralai, tzaddik Gomor of Tanya. These were such special people. We can't compare to them. Not because we're greater than them, God forbid. We don't come to their toenails. But because of the Mesiras Nefesh of the Rabbeim, the world has been transformed. And we have been transformed, and we have got to that place where we have the ability to be able to stand through this and be on top. That's what we have, the koyach, the ability. Will that actually happen? Or will it not? Of course, that's up to us. But next time the Yetzer Hara approaches you, next time you're in that space, we all know what it is. We all have our own challenges. Whatever the space is, it could be different for everybody. But it's the same in the sense. It's the same in the sense where am I going to actually right now show that the Mesiras Nefesh of all the Rabbeim paid off? Am I going to be able to actually show them this truth, that what you did actually worked, that we could have the technology and we could use it the right way? We could go out in shlichus and we could be not impacted by that, by the rest of the world. And then you look at the Chassidim today, you look at the world of shlichus today, and you see you see the Rabbeim's tremendous accomplishment in the world. We almost take it for granted. Of course, we're going to go on a shlichus, we're going to conquer the world. We'll go to anywhere and we won't be impacted. That doesn't make any sense. It looks normal today. This looks like it's normal. The Alter Rebbe was showing us it was impossible. He had to give up his life because it wouldn't have happened. And yet today,
if it was impossible, then why would it have happened? I'm confused. Like, if it was impossible, then Hashem wouldn't have let it happen, because then we wouldn't have been able to withstand it.
that's Hashem. When you say Hashem wouldn't let it happen, that Hashem that you're referring to is implemented in this world through the tzaddikim, through the Rabbi, and that's why He didn't let it happen.
I'm confused why we had to fight it. Why did the Alter Rebbe have to fight it so hard to risk his life? If
that is what the world is. This is why Farbrengens are so beautiful. Your question that you're asking, I want to just elaborate on your question for a moment. Why couldn't life just be rosy? Why did we have to be in a place where we had to be persecuted in order to stay alive, keep our Yiddishkeit alive? Why couldn't it just been easy? Why does there have to be an enemy? Why does it have to be the other side? Because this is what makes a Derav B'Tachtein. When there is the other side, and we overpower it, that's what makes a Derav B'Tachtein. If everything was like in Shamayim, when Moshe Rabbeinu came to get the Torah, and the Malachim says to Moshe Rabbeinu, what are you doing here? And Moshe Hashem says to the Malachim, he came to get the Torah. And the Malachim says, no, Torah should stay in Shamayim. So Abisha says to Moshe Rabbeinu, you answer them. What does he tell the Malachim? You guys have a Yetzer Hara? Torah is not yours.
I guess in this situation, it's not like the generation and the Yidden themselves felt the battle. It sounds like the Alter Rebbe felt the battle and fought the battle on behalf of us. So, like, where was our part in it? And so, if there wasn't our part in it, then it's not like the Hanukkah story. It's not like the Purim story. Like, what's the point of a task?
Oh, it's so beautiful.
Like,
wow.
Like, to add to it, did the Hasidim know?
Wow.
Or did the non-Hasidim know?
Wow. Probably not, by the way, at the moment. It's so deep. So deep. I want to reiterate the question. I'm loving it. Was this a battle that the Chassidim were fighting? They were learning a Maimer of the Alter Rebbe. They were learning Tanya. And here the Alter Rebbe is fighting. So to some extent, the answer is the Alter Rebbe sent his own son and his Chassidim to actually be in the war and fight. Not with the guns, but to be a spy in. So they were involved even on a physical level. But who was really fighting this war? Who was really, this Klippa was, Napoleon was the representative of Klippa in this world, and Alter Rebbe was the opposite, right? But what you're saying is that the Alter Rebbe was the one who gave up his life, then, so the Chassidim then could do what they had to do. It was the Rabbeim that were the ones who transformed the whole world. And we're just simple people today. So where do we fit into all of this? It's almost like this is a Rebbe thing.
I think specifically what we're saying with the story with Alter Rebbe, I think like after that we could see how the Hasidim were involved, like and like with the Frierdiker Rebbe and coming to America and everything like that. We see the evolution, but at least the beginning of it just sounds like, yeah, I don't know.
But the truth of the matter is, in essence, that's really the case. The Rebbe is the source of energy through which all of Hashem's energy comes into this world. And that is definitely the one the Rebbe is, and we as the Rebbe's Chassidim and the Chassidim in every generation, were the extension, the hands and feet of the Rabbi. But the real question comes now to us. Once all the work is done and the world has got to this place, and we're in the last moments of Galus, now comes the question, how do we hold on? Because now we are actually challenged. Now we have these challenges for real in our lives. Where on one hand we're trusted with the gun, the technology is in our pocket. And with a click of the button, we can send out a message to so many Yidden and teach Chassidus to so many people. And then with the click of the button, and just the time to stop and focus and realize how much Mesiras Nefesh went to getting us to this place so that we could do the last final part. And Taka, use the technology, don't become Amish. Use the technology, but at the same time, don't assimilate.
Give some more examples, not just technology. I mean, technology is big, but there's so many other tools and opportunities and things that can go either way.
You're right. It's not only technology. There's other things as well. When you you live amongst the Goyim and you go out on Shluchus and you're living with other people, they have a very different mindset, a different way of thinking, a different way of life. And you're the one family there on Shluchus, and everyone around you is so different. And sometimes could even be your own family. And that power to be able to say, I can do this, we have to realize it's not coming from us. It's coming from the Rabbeim. They are empowering us to say that we can do this. If we're looking at ourselves and saying, but who am I? I know myself. I know my abilities. I know who I really, you know how the Yetzer Hara makes this thing. I know who I really am. That's how you want to look at yourself. In that kind of limited way, you can. But if you want to look at yourself who you really are, you have this empowerment from the Rebbe to be able to withstand the last moments of Galus. I'll never forget. Never. It was the second Chof Zayin Adar. Second time, Chof Zayin Adar, the Rebbe had the first stroke. And then the Chof Zayin Adar, the next year, the Rebbe had another stroke. And there was a special gathering in 770. And I remember, I don't know if he remembers, but I remember. Rabbi Levi Gerelik spoke. And he quoted a medrash. And I remember him saying how the medrash says that before Mashiach comes, the Satan is going to shake the tree and most of the fruit will fall off. But there'll be a few fruits that will hold on. And I remember him saying, the Satan has shooken the tree to its core. Because for us, at that point in time, this was the worst thing that could have ever happened. And I remember back then thinking to myself, Baruch Hashem, I'm one of those that are still holding on. But today, so many years later, on a day like today, we have to ask ourselves, Are we really holding on to the Alter Rebbe's klank? Are we really true to our real selves? Our true identity, who we really are, what we really want, what we really care for? Or sometimes, do we assimilate a little bit? And to remind ourselves that the Rabbi went on Mesiras Nefesh to empower us, that we can do this. And we will do this. And we're going to actually bring the Geula. I hope it was meaningful. Hope it was. The story is powerful. The lesson is very practical. And hope Eretz Hashem will be able to, next time we're in that moment, and the Yetzer Hara tries to infiltrate and get us to assimilate. Assimilate could be in our thoughts, could be in our feelings, and sometimes even by pressing a button. That we can remind ourselves just of this Mesiras Nefesh of the Alter Rebbe. Remind ourselves how they went at Mesiras Nefesh so that we should be able to make that decision. And I'll end off with the most powerful line from all of the rallies that I've ever heard the Rebbe say. Actually, the first rally. This year is 50 years since the Rebbe launched Mifsach Chinuch. That was on Rish Chodesh Iyar. And the following Tishrei was the first rally, not a Teves Shem rally that started in Mem Aleph, but the first rally. And it was Yud Tes Tishrei Toshen Lamed Zayin. The rally was across the street. It was on Sukkot. So it was in the Sukkah between 770 and the library. And it wasn't for the local children, it was for the public school children from release time. And the Rebbe said this line, and if this doesn't talk to you, I don't know what will. The Rebbe said to the public school children that in the schus of you foiling the plot of your Yetzer Hara, then when somebody, an enemy of the Yidden, wants to hurt an individual Yid or a community or a whole country, their plans will be foiled before they come into action. In today's day and age, unfortunately, the thought of somebody coming over to an individual Yid and doing something, hopefully none of you have actually seen it with your own eyes, but for those of you that have seen attempts, it's the most scariest, horrifying moment that somebody is literally running over to an individual Yid with a knife. The thought of someone who wants to hurt a community was something that we couldn't fathom till very recently. And unfortunately, we just witnessed it happen in front of our eyes. And until very recently, what Iran had up their sleeve and what their plans were to do to the whole country wasn't a fantasy, it was an actual plan. And the Rebbe is telling us that when you have that opportunity and the Yetzer Hara is playing with your brain, press the button, press the button, press the button, and you foil the plot, then in that schos, then when that person wants to actually hurt an individual Yid, or Rahman al-Islam, a community, or a country, that plot will be foiled. And if we see ourselves not as another person who happens to live on the planet, but rather really Hashem's soldiers who have a real power, physical power to save Yidden, then when we make our choices, they come with weight. Because that choice can save another Yid. That choice can save a community. That choice can save a country. And most importantly, that choice will bring the goal.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rabbi Weinbaum, for giving us the clarity on what today is so that we could celebrate it properly and integrate it in our lives. Michal Weiss had a baby, Baruch Hashem, so she's not here, but this is one of memento from Living Chassidus. It's a magnet bookmark, so that's for you.
Really appreciate it. Please wish her a big mazel tov.
Okay, and also Living Chassidus has a tradition of taking a selfie with our speaker. Are you comfortable with that? You could stay exactly where you are, and we would just take them.
Wouldn't want to ruin your traditions.
If you're comfortable with it, we don't have to do it.
All right.
Can I use your phone?
Yes.
Thank you.